to my computer. All right. Okay, it's all yours.
Yeah, I was just going to share that I do use Google Slides a lot when I'm teaching online. I use slides more to kind of take notes with the class in real time. So I'm just curious. For me, that seems more effective, but I'm always wondering, should I explore more? Like, do people use Zoom Whiteboard more? Or, I just find slides very convenient and to go right in and like for group writing or kind of real-time note taking, or even if we're doing a gap fill together, I can just have the students. So I know I use slides a lot, kind of like an active whiteboard, but maybe that's not the best approach. I don't know.
I mean, that sounds great. I mean, it is such a challenge to have a good space online where you can be writing things together. So I would say, Jamboard, I don't know if you ever used Jamboard, which was a Google product and then went away. Um, a lot of my colleagues who really liked using that kind of tool have gone to Padlet, which has something called Sandbox. And the Sandbox can be very similar. I don't know that it's going to be better than Google Slides, depending on how you use it, but it has a lot of built-in tools, and it does let people. One of the challenges with Google stuff is that when I give you all edit access, you can come in and just accidentally delete everything that I put up there. Like, we don't own our own stuff, right? We're all, if once you're allowed to edit, we're all in there kind of equally allowed to do whatever we do. And that might not be how you're using it. But one of the benefits of Padlet in general is that it's a shared space where we can see each other's work, but we can't mess with each other's work. And so the sandbox is similar, where you can have a question and everyone can come in and write a little answer, but they can't accidentally delete each other's answers, or they can add little happy faces, or they can do a variety of things. So certainly, we did do a Padlet workshop earlier this year, but we'll definitely do some Padlet stuff next year. Padlet's definitely something to look at. The one challenge with Padlet, if you haven't used it, is that for the free account, you only can have 3 active Padlets going, but you can archive one of those and then start a new one and bring back the archive. Like, you can trade around and keep some archived ones. So I will put in the chat in case. Are you familiar with Padlet, Nicholas?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I just took the note on my phone of Sandbox. I do use it with my
It's
current class,
new,
but I
yeah.
haven't explored that feature, so I will. And I actually had just started teaching online again, so I didn't know Jamboard went away too. I used to
Yes.
use that in the past. Any idea why they removed it?
We don't know because they didn't really create anything else to take its place. And it was such a particularly good tool. Um, and there was a lot of sadness. Like, there was petitions when they announced that it was going to go away. But I do think Padlet's done a great job of replicating everything that I know people liked about Jamboard. You have that same kind of multiple pages, so you can move through people through different kinds of activities. The kinds of things you can do on the boards are similar. I have my colleague Cynthia, who's our math specialist. She loves it for, you can do math, like graphs and things like on it. It has some built-in backgrounds like Venn diagrams and stuff like that. So there are some fun things to do there. Anybody have any thoughts about how you handle, if you're doing online teaching, that idea of the whiteboard? When COVID was underway, we kind of developed what we call the 7 elements of highly effective online teaching, and they were really, how do you
I
kind of,
just,
yeah,
when
go
I
ahead, Lauren.
teach online, I just open a Google Doc and we work with that one Google Doc.
And so people come in and
Um,
type in there, Lauren, or you type in there and they see it.
you know what? I have classes of 20, 22,
Right.
25 people online. For
Yeah.
me to give them control of a mouse, it'll start becoming unruly. So
Understood.
basically, I let them annotate with the annotate tool, but I'll type in what they tell me. But I think for a class of 22, if I give them control of the mouse, it will be chaos.
Absolutely. And for a lot of our students, they're also joining you probably on their phone. So it can be tricky for them also to access some of these
But
things.
I want to say I used to use Padlet. I'm so sorry, I'm on the bus. I used to use Padlet a lot. And now that I merged to Google Classroom, I find that I have to do much more tech support. And Padlet was so much easier for the students to use.
Hmm.
I don't like doing tech support.
No. That's not really
But
our job.
there's a lot of ed tech companies that work with Google Classroom, like ESL Library, that merged their contact with Google Classroom, so it's easier to incorporate that content in. But that's all I'm going to say.
I think those are really good points. That I think there were several really good points, right? Like as far as being the tech, having to do a lot of tech work, having a lot of people joining you in a single space can be challenging. People joining from their phones can't always access all these tools. Another thing I like about Padlet is that there is an app. So if students are willing to download that app, then everything any Padlet they open, they just automatically have it in their Padlet so they can get back to it easily. And I think that's a key here. And it came up, I was talking to someone who was going to start a digital literacy class, and she was trying to figure out how to share a link on the first day of class. So she doesn't have everyone's email address. I don't even know if she's projecting it. So how could she share a link to, I think it was to a Kahoot or to a survey or something like that. And it occurred to me that like, for me, one of the things I might do is have either Google Classroom or even a website or a Padlet or just a single location that as long as my students know how to get to that, they can get to everything else, right? So one URL that they either bookmark or that it's easy for them to type in, and then you can add the content there. And that's basically, if you're using something like Google Classroom, that's a full LMS, full learning management system, but you can do a lot of that using, I think, Google Slides, Google Sites. It could be a Google Doc that you just keep updating and they know they can get back to that. And you could use a shortened link version of that. So that's true whether they're in person or remote. This idea of how do you, while you're working remotely with students and you're just like you would do in a classroom where you're going to write on the chalkboard behind you or the whiteboard behind you or the smartboard or whatever. I do think that what I like about slides, maybe more than docs, is that you can do it's so much easier to add an image or move things around or use different kinds of content where the doc is a little trickier that way. But if it's just writing, the doc is fantastic. And either way, it's easy to share with folks after they leave the room. I guess that's another thing that I've noticed and another reason why I started using Padlet originally, and maybe Google Docs as well, is in a class or in a workshop where folks maybe are writing, maybe you're working in groups and you're writing your notes on a piece of chart paper that's going to be put up on the wall and shared. And this happened recently. I was at a conference and I haven't done this for so long, but we used chart paper and then everyone left and I had all the chart paper and they did not have it and I didn't get it typed up. And if we'd done it in Padlet, so there's a real benefit, obviously, to handwriting on a piece of paper, putting it on the wall, walking around. Like I totally see that. So I'm not at all saying don't do that. But the one challenge with that is then that you have these pieces of paper that stay in one place until someone types them up and puts them somewhere electronically. Where when you use Padlet in a similar way, right? Everyone has their own piece on a Padlet. We can all see it, but it stays with everybody. So when you leave the workshop, you have all that content available to you. Which is something that I really like. And I do think a lot of Google tools lend themselves to that too. And that is, so Vasiliki, I see in the chat you mentioned that Google tools are more accessible. And I think that's kind of why we have Google Club, right? We might change this to Tech Club next year or something. It doesn't have to be Google focused, but part of it is this idea that Google is something that folks can use without having to pay money, right? And they can use it across their devices and they can easily access content they started in class on a different computer, maybe at home or in the library or something like that, that they often work. But most tools work kind of okay on a phone. So if students are accessing content on their phone, they can do that. Where Microsoft just costs more, costs money. It's not guaranteed that where you go, you'll have access to it. And knowing how to save your material in a place where you can access it again. I don't know if maybe you still do it, but that idea of like, I used to email myself documents from work so I could work on them at home. Google has saved me from that. And I also use Dropbox for non-Googly things. So I have everything in the cloud nowadays and I just trust it'll be there. Yes, Lauren.
What I've been doing for my virtual classes, I have 3 live classes and 3 virtual classes. It's a lot.
Yeah.
what I've been doing in Zoom allows you to do a screen save. I don't know if it's on the free account. I have a paid account. And then I save it. And sometimes when I upload it, Google Drive will like convert the text sometimes. Or I just put it in a share folder and I send it out to my students that are not using Classroom on WhatsApp.
And when you say you do screen grabs, is that the little, what did I see today? Because I've never used it before. There's something called,
It's
nope.
under the waste paper basket.
Interesting.
Save screen. It's the thing under the waste paper. I'm not seeing it in my mind's eye right now.
Yeah.
But it's right under the waste paper basket.
All right.
When you do a annotate.
So
what I do is during the session, if there's new vocabulary, there's something that I want the students to learn, I will save it and I'll either use Google Drive to convert it to text, or I just upload it to a shared folder, and I always send a link via WhatsApp. Because remember, WhatsApp doesn't support PDFs.
Oh, good to know.
So,
but it does JPEGs, right? Like photo.
It does JPEGs. So either I'll put up a JPEG or I'll link them to PDFs.
Excellent.
In a Google shared folder.
Okay, good to know. I haven't tried that out with the, I guess I don't use Annotate very often, so I haven't.
Because there's some low-level classes that Google Classroom may be too much for. The higher level classes that's more technical savvy will use Google Classroom.
That's one of the things I miss about Zoom. There was once a time when it first came out that you were able to distribute files to the chat.
You could actually do it now.
Can you? Because I can't. Now, I don't have a paid account. I can't do it. They took it out of the chat and I don't know how. And it really, I guess I could, the way you do it, going through yet another application that all the students have to have, it becomes clunky. Whereas originally with Zoom, it was easy. And I could.
Well, it was during pandemic. They're like whiteboards you have to pay for now.
No,
what
I
else?
don't pay for.
You don't pay for your whiteboard? You do pay.
No.
You sure? I use Zoom like 3 times a week. You have to pay for the whiteboards unless you got a company membership or something like that.
I teach through my company membership. Maybe
so it must be through the company.
I'm pretty sure. Something I don't know now.
No.
I don't know now. I'm pretty
sure. And they
sure.
limit the amount of whiteboards you could use.
Maybe that's what it is, because I'm looking at it now. I'm on my personal account, and I can see the whiteboards.
Yeah, but it's probably a paid account through the company.
Well, we could get more information about that, but it sounds like you're able to do it. So Jen, you're able to do that, and it sounds like Lauren, you said you're still able to send documents through.
Yes. But I have a paid account.
Right, but with a paid account, how are you doing that? You just put it in the chat?
Yep.
But is a link to the document?
Yep.
So
I don't remember. I'm having a senior moment today.
It's all good.
Interesting because through what I use, my company account, I can't send it through the chat any longer. And it's a huge impediment for me now. I'm a language teacher. I used to be able to put students into breakout rooms. I could send different documents individually for a jigsaw.
You could share a screen now.
Yeah,
for the breakout rooms.
Exactly. Okay.
But remember, if you share a screen and you go out of the main room into the breakout rooms, you lose the screen.
I used to be able to send different files to students individually, so I could get 3 students in a breakout room, each having a different file that so they could discuss it. I can't do that anymore, which is it's a huge impediment. It's a great activity, particularly for upper level students, and it's too bad.
So that might be another way to use Padlet, because Padlet has started a new thing. So 2 things. I think you can set up Padlet where breakout rooms in Padlet have access to a specific section of a Padlet. But there is something in Zoom where you can set up a poll, and based on the poll answer, they can go into breakout rooms. But you're talking about getting them specific content as well?
Exactly, and that's what it was, and individualized content rather than just a common a common file.
I don't know. I've been sharing stuff, but I don't know how. I don't remember. Okay.
Well, this seems very specific, and I'm definitely going to do some research, and we'll see if we can find something about that. I do see that in my chat box inside my Zoom, there is a place where I can add a file. And I do have a paid account. And we do have we have the workplace one, the Zoom workplace. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But we could do a special thing on Zoom. I feel like it's time. We did a lot of work during COVID because it was an emergency and we were all doing it. And then we had kind of a time when people kind of moved away. And now we have people who didn't teach then or are coming back to it. So it's time to maybe refresh ourselves on
That's
some
interesting.
things
I
we can
can
do
see it
later.
on this.
Yeah.
I'll have to check. Okay, for a while. I'll have to check now
Yeah.
to see if
Yeah.
it's on my. They keep adding this and subtracting stuff. Sometimes it's a little
There's
difficult.
a new document function now they added. I didn't play with it yet, but there's some sort of new functionality with documents. They just added it now.
And there's
And I
definitely, I
don't
can see the
have the
screenshot
right
thing.
membership also.
Right. I can see the screenshot thing there too. In fact, what I'll do is I'll share. Oh, Vasilki's can't tell us about a useful tool, Microsoft Teams. Vasilki, do you want to unmute and tell us more?
Yes, hi everybody.
So tell us more. Yeah.
So I have I'm having one class, like it's like a tutoring once a week, and I used to use Zoom, which was then you had to pay for it, and then I discovered Teams, which took place of Skype. It replaced Skype, and it's free. You can share. For me, I think it's a combination between Zoom, Google Meet, and Skype, and it's very useful. It doesn't lag, I never had issues making calls, answering calls, freezing my computer with Zoom. My computer always freezes. There's always a technical difficulty. I can send files. It's very convenient for me.
And students can join you, no problem.
Yes. And it's
What are
free.
we talking about? Google Meet?
No, Microsoft Teams.
Wait a minute. You're not in a paid account for
No,
Microsoft Teams? The
no,
company, the people that you work for are not on paid account?
no, this is for my own use.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm using it. I'm teaching.
Did you buy Office 365?
No,
No
no,
subscriptions?
no.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
Exciting.
you can take it out if you want. Well, you know, it won't hurt to try, right?
Yeah. I know a lot of
Yes.
people are moving over to Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, it's very convenient. It's very easy. I never had problem with it, but with Zoom all the time, most of the time.
Yeah. I'm getting a call.
Well, this is great because I think, again, the tools that you're trying, we all find something that we particularly like or fits our particular needs. And so it's really helpful to hear what you've all found as solutions to your problems. I very Zoom centric, I'm very Google centric, and every now and then I'm cold pulled either have to use Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, and I'm always like, what? Where? I don't know where anything is. So it's good to have to try out everything so you remind yourselves that the things are available because sometimes they are better in different tools. And if there's an issue with Zoom, we often see that the bandwidth you need for Zoom can be quite intense. But during COVID, it was definitely the best one, I think we felt in the end. But who knows? I love that people are trying lots of different things. So just to see in Zoom chat, when I'm looking at my Zoom right now and I look at the chat section, I have these little icons at the bottom, and this icon means share files, and then this is a screenshot one. So that's kind of interesting. I hadn't noticed the screenshot, so I'm kind of excited about that. I have to do some screenshots later. Anybody else want to share? Again, I love that this is broader than Google. So any other tech tools that you're finding particularly valuable these days? Or maybe ones you struggled with and you're looking for a new solution? Anybody want to share?
Yeah, I want to create a final. I have a class that's finishing on we have a class next week, but the week after we don't. So it's finishing next week, and I want to create a final using quiz assignment, and I haven't really played with it yet. I did everything else on Classroom, like questions and polls and everything. Shared documents, that they all written up on one document, but I never did a quiz assignment. And I'm wondering if you think that would be a good option.
So by quiz assignment, you mean like a Google form that is turned into a quiz and has correct answers in it?
No, they submit the answers.
Understood, but you're using a Google form to create the quiz.
Right. So
Yeah.
what I want to do is multiple choice fill-ins and maybe write a couple sentences. Will I be able to do that?
Yeah, so when you turn a Google form into a Google quiz, the real power is in the fact that Google quiz, you tell it it's best for multiple choice questions. Because
Okay, so I need
basically
multiple choice. Okay.
multiple choice or true false, which is a version of multiple choice, because basically you create it and you indicate which one is the correct answer. And
Okay.
if you're putting in full sentences, unless it's a fill in the blank or something like that, the
Right.
possible ways that people can answer make it very difficult to have it do the automatic.
Right.
We can look at that very quickly, just so we haven't done Google Forms much this year either. So if I'm here in my Google and I go to new and I open up a form, the place that you turn it into a quiz is under settings. And if you're doing this through Google Classroom, I'm guessing it's very similar.
Right.
So once it's in the quiz mode, and you can indicate whether they're going to get a grade after they submit the whole quiz, which is what we
Right.
do. But if you are including some questions that you need to go and review, because you can do a combined quiz where some of it is scored by Google, but some of it is scored by you. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
one or two paragraph writing or something like that, then you might want to do the later after you do the manual review.
Oh,
So you have both options. You also you can have it so it will tell people what questions they missed. You can tell which answer would have been correct and a point value, and you can decide if
right.
any of those are valuable. You can turn those on and off. Once you turn it into a quiz, when you go back to your question area, you'll see that answer key pops up. And that's how you tell it which one is right. So if our question is, what time of year do trees lose their leaves? And we say fall, summer, spring, winter. I indicate the correct answer by clicking here. And it could be that all the answers could be correct, or two of them could be correct. So you can choose however you want to do that.
Okay.
And then in the answer key, you can say how many points it's going to be, and then you can give answer feedback based on incorrect answers. So you can say the correct answer is fall, and then you can even say that under correct answer. So you could say the correct answer is fall. And then for correct answers, you could say, well done.
Mm.
Do you like fall? Right? You can do whatever you want. So they'll see that when they get their quiz back. And And when you're done, you click done, and then it looks kind of like a normal quiz question. And let's see, I don't think it held my answer key properly, did it? There we go. So under answer key is where I select the correct answer. So that's where you get the checkpoint. And then let's call this seasons. So nowadays with forms, you have to publish them. So you'll publish it and it will give you the link. And so then if we were to go see this in real life, it looks like this. And if I answer spring and then I submit it, oh, well, let me do it from there. Let's do it from this link instead. Oh, sorry, did not like the link that I created. Let's see. All right. So probably always good to have a question asking people's names if you're really scoring this or whatever, but we'll say the answer is fall, and I'm going to submit it. And now having submitted it, I can view the score and I'll see that I got the correct answer, and then I can say, well done, do you like fall? So that's how it ends up looking. You can do some nice things to make it fancy as far as like, you know, adding in images, colors and things like that. Like a header. You can do something colorful. You can pick from their images or make your own. Canva has a setup here. You can just you can look for Google form headers and it will build one for you that is the right size. And once you put an image in there, it'll change colors and you can again select if you like the color it chose, or you can go with a different color. And then the key here is, and so as a teacher, you get to go in and see the responses here. You also can link it to Sheets so you can see all the students in one place. So there you go. So yeah, I think that's a very fun way to do a quiz for the end of the year, or even like a weekly quiz. And the nice thing is that people can take it over and over again if they want to, depending on your purposes. And they can also so they can practice things there. You can put a video inside the quiz and ask questions about the video. There's a lot of things you can do with Google Forms that way.
Oh, it will be a Google form that I submit to Google Classroom.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Excellent.
I guess that's what I'm going to do this weekend.
I'm excited.
I'll tell you what happens.
I love it. I look forward to that.
You know, they have to get to pass this course, they have to get a certificate from Q teachers.
Okay.
So this is really important to get them to do this.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, and the nice thing is it's very mobile friendly and easy for people to do on their phones as well as on a computer screen. Excellent. I'm putting a few slides in our slide deck that I will come back and add more to. So the Zoom chat is there. I'll put in some stuff about Padlet Sandbox. I'll put in some stuff about Google Forms in case you guys are interested in those. Anybody else, anything to share about tech work that you've been doing or things that you're wondering about trying out? I did have one thing. So last month, we talked a little bit about AI in Google, and Google has put AI everywhere. So whenever you're in a Google product, you have AI is near at hand. Usually it means Gemini, but it's embedded in all these things. But what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, the thing I'm interested in working on more, or trying out more, is something called GEMS. Has anyone here tried out Google Gems, Gemini Gems?
Yes, a little.
What have you done with them?
I just try to find warmers. And so, oh, you want to know the funny thing? So you gave us a website of somebody that collected all these gems.
Eric Kurtz, yes.
Okay, so I did a search on Gemini for something I didn't even remember. And then I went into his website. It was the same gem.
Yes.
It was the same result.
So in the slides, I have linked to him again because he's been basically, he builds all of these and he does a lot of
Yeah.
tutorials on creating them. But basically what a gem is a, um, it's setting up a situation where a long prompt that you would write, you don't have to keep submitting it. You can just create it one time and then you can use it yourself over and over again, or you could even share it with other folks and they can use it. And the way I was working with this recently was on the idea of, and this might not be something that works particularly for your students, but I was working with some teachers who were concerned, or the concern was about, it's a writing class and are students doing their own writing or are they getting AI to maybe do some of the writing? And there could be conversations, and my feelings about that are you can have a lot of discussions about when to use AI and when not to use AI. So this is sort of predicated on the fact that there would be sort of an open conversation about using AI anyway. But one of the things that came from, so Eric Kurtz has a version of this, and then I have my like very baby version of this. But basically, the way you do a gem, you come to Gemini, like almost all Google tools. I say almost all because I don't know of any that aren't. This isn't true, but I'm sure there are some. To get here, you can type in the name of the tool. So we could say slides.google.com, sheets.google.com. In this case, we can do gemini.google.com. So gemini.google.com will get you to the regular Gemini interface where you could ask Gemini now to do something that you want AI to do for you. But over here on the side, you may not have noticed it, but there is a thing here that's called gems. And so when you click on gems, you'll see that you already have some pre-made gems that Google is suggesting for you that might be fun for you to try out, right? You could learn to play chess or play chess with it. There's a career guide. There's a variety of them here, and this changes. They kind of do a spotlight on ones that they've already created. Then you're going to see a list of your gems. If you've not created any, this will be blank, but as you create them, this will get longer and longer. And then you'll see a list of the gems that have been shared with you. So this is very much like the regular Google way of being, right? Where you've created your own stuff in Drive, and then there's stuff that was shared with you. So it's very similar to typical Google interactions. And the gem that I'm talking about today is called the Socratic Tutor. And the idea of the Socratic Tutor is I'm going to give my students this link. I'm going to give you this link. You go there and you ask, it's going to look like Gemini, and you're going to ask it to write your essay for you, right? So maybe you've all been reading a book. I'm reading Jaws right now. I don't know if you've ever read Jaws, but we can say we're going to be reading Jaws, and everyone's assignment is to write a 2-paragraph essay about Jaws, right? So if you are the student who doesn't want to do any of that work, you're going to come to Gemini and say, hey, Gemini, write me a 2-paragraph essay about Jaws. And when we use the Socratic Tutor version, we'll see what happens, right? So if I go into Socratic Tutor, and I can share it with you. Let's see, did I put it in the, come into our slides and find the link for it. Right, so this is the Socratic Tutor. And what I've done here is I've created a link where you'll make a copy of it for yourself, just like we do sometimes with Google Docs, where instead of all being in the same one, we're going to make our own. So I'm going to take this link and put it in here, and I'm going to give it to you in the chat as well. So if you want to, you can open that up, or you can play along with me as I try it out up here. Maybe, there we go. Oh. All right, so I'm going to come over here to my Socratic Tutor, and I'm going to say, hey, Gemini, write a 2-paragraph essay about the book Jaws. And the reason it's Socratic is it's not going to do that. It's not going to write it for me. It's going to help me write it. So it's going to say, it's going to ask me some questions. for me to think about, right? So, hello, I'd love to help you work with your writing for your CLIP class. I did especially for a CLIP presentation. Since you're practicing your academic English skills, let's start by looking at what you want to say about the book, right? So I'm gonna say, write a sentence about how big the shark is. That's a great place to start to help you write the sentence. Let's think about what you want to describe. So it is programmed not to do the work for me. And part of the joke could be to try and get it to break it, right? So you could have students try to break it and really get it to write for them. But in that process, I have to have some knowledge. I have to be able to think about the book and ask questions that might try to spur my Socratic tutor into doing the thing I want it to do for me. So that is one example, right? You could write, so to create your own Gemini gems, let me get rid of this one. We can look at the slides first just so you quickly see what you, so the first step in any Gemini gem is to create your prompt, because that's how you're programming basically this gem to do what you want it to do. And one tool, you don't have to do it this way, but one tool to kind of make sure that you're covering all the important parts of the prompt is to use something called PACT, which includes the persona. So what is the AI doing for us? What role are they playing? What do you want them to do or not do? In this case, I would have told it, do never write for my students. Always ask them questions. What are the boundaries? Perhaps there are standards, or like a student could create their own gem and have it say, apply these standards when you review my writing and see if I've used all of these standards correctly, or something like that, right? So you can put in whatever set of sort of measurements you want to have around it. And then if you want it to produce something, you can tell it what you want it to produce and how it should look. So you could even ask it to create slides or something like that for you. I was at this student art exhibition where someone had made it looked like a little jar, and it had a little microphone, and you were supposed to speak into this microphone. You were supposed to tell it some bad thought that you had. And then you put the microphone down and you waited for like 3 seconds while your bad thought fermented in the jar. And then the jar had a little screen and a poem with your bad thought turned into something poetic popped up. And I was like, I think you could do that with a Gemini gem. So I'm going to try that right now, see if I can make it do that. So I'm going to go back to my Gemini, and I'm going to go to my Gemini gems, and I'm going to click on new gem, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Good Thoughts Poetry. And I'm going to describe it. This description is what other people will see. So if you were to share this with other people and they were going to look at it in their list, they would know kind of what's going to happen. So this gem takes negative thoughts and makes them into poems, positive poems. Let's say you don't want negative poems. Okay. And then this part here is where you put everything else from that packed piece, right? So you are a poet that can take negative thoughts and turn them into positive short poems, 4 lines long. I think it's important to tell it how long you want your outcomes to be, 4 lines long. Poems should include colors and flowers. Why not? And I could spell it properly. That would help things, probably. Should. Oh my gosh. And you can try it out, and then if it's not what you want it to be, you can always do it again. So let's see, we've told it who it is. We've told it some limiting things, right? That it's only be 4 lines long. I'm going to write a little bit more about people are going to tell you their negative thoughts, and you will then write the poem. Okay. You actually can also select which tools you want it to do. So we can even turn this into music, deep search, canvas, create an image, right? So they could turn it into an image instead of a poem, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. So there's no default tool. It will use whatever it wants to use. This is where I could add files. If I had example poems, if I had vocabulary that I particularly wanted it to use, if I had standards or frameworks or educational functioning levels, you could put any of those things in here, and that it could help it kind of what to apply to whatever the task is that you're asking it to do. And then once you are relatively happy and want to try it out, you can save it. And we're going to start the chat. So I'm going to come in here. You see it looks just like Gemini, but it has the name and it has the description. And now I'm going to say, it is too hot today. Let's see what it will do with this. Oh, golden sunflowers. Oh, it is nice, right? It kind of takes my negative feelings about the hot weather and makes them a little prettier. So again, you can do this for yourself. You can do this and give it to other people to play with. You'll see the tools that it has built in. And then if you were to go look at the ones that Eric Kurtz has created. So Eric Kurtz is someone if you're planning your summer and you want to learn more tech tool stuff, Eric Kurtz is definitely someone to go check out. So just checking the chat to see. Oh, and then if I wanted to share that Gemini gem with you guys, let's get rid of that one. I feel like, let's see here. Oh, excellent. Chayla's here. So Chayla, one moment. Let me just share this with folks, and then I would love you to share what you're doing. Why don't you go ahead? I'm going to stop sharing, and then you can.
Can I just ask a quick question before we move on?
Yes.
I know that every AI tool is a little bit different. And I think I brought up this question in the last meeting. And I understand that you use a lot of Gemini, but what I'm thinking is these AI tools learn from different resources. And sometimes I get funky results, and I'm very specific in my prompts. I get funky results on Gemini, and then I'll move over to the Microsoft Copilot. I'm sorry, I'm on the bus again. And then I'll work with it a little bit, and then I'll get funky results. What I'm asking for, which AI tools are best suited for us? That's what I'm asking. I don't want to play with 20 AI tools like Claude and all the others. I'm asking to be directed. I guess I'm a little lazy. I'm asking to be directed to the best AI tool for our purposes.
So I will say that I've asked. So I can give you, I have some recommendations, Claude specifically for certain kinds of writing activities. So I'll add that to our slide deck. I also think it's kind of what people end up liking. And they do definitely have different particular strengths. Like I don't use Gemini a lot actually, but I do use Nano Banana, which is their image creator tool.
Right. And their images are getting better, by the way.
Yeah. But you can actually ask one of your AI tools to tell you, because it is interesting. I've done that, and it's kind of told me what it thought the differences were between 3 different tools. Like, why would I use one, for this particular purpose, which tool would you recommend? And it's just interesting to see what they have to say.
So do that. I'll do that. I'll do
Yeah,
that.
it's worth trying that out and then seeing if you agree with what it gives you. I'm guessing if you were to Google it and not just take whatever AI gives you, maybe there's
Right,
Reddits out there where there's some recommendations.
right,
And Eric
right.
Fritz might also have some recommendations. So again, I'm going to let Shayla go now and show us her
Yes,
beautiful
if
book.
you could send that information
Yes,
in the slide deck that you send Eric's
yes,
information,
yes. Eric's is
that
in
would be
there,
great.
and I will add more about AI tools. Hey, Shayla, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sheila Perez, and thank you for the invitation. So, I was asked to share something that has been really successful in our program. I work for BronxWorks, and we have right now more than I would say 300 students in different like 5 locations that we have. And one of the events that has been very successful in our program is the civic engagement event. Last week, on Wednesday specifically, we celebrated the Immigrant Heritage Week, where all our students joined together. They were talking about their country's background, history. And one of the things that for me, it's very special, and I would say that it has been the most successful event during these 4 years that we have been celebrating this event, because we were able to invite the community here in the Bronx, and we have more than 200 people in the event. So I'll share with you a few pictures right now. Just give me 1 sec so that you can see all the things that we did with the students. And this is not here. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to have many vibes here. Okay, here we go. So, okay. So as you can see, we had more than, let me see, 5, 6 classes all together. And as you can see here, that was a group of students, and you can see the decoration. They put all the flags from different countries, and they did the decoration very beautifully. They also made like a buffet. They brought food from their countries, and everybody was eating, enjoying. Also, they were dancing their traditional music. And also they had they put together some PowerPoint presentations, and they were able to speak, I would say very proudly about, their backgrounds and cultures as well. So we have people from many places, such as Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, Guatemala, Philippines, and also from many African countries like Mali, Ivory Coast. So that was a very beautiful event, and I would say that I feel very honored and proud to be, able to help this community that we serve here in the Bronx. And that's basically it, right? So the reason why I wanted to share this is because it's very important to have this type of event for our students, because they feel that they belong, they feel that they're doing something for this city. And yeah, so that's it. If you have any questions or, about the outcomes and about this event, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
And just to bring it back to Google, I see that you use Google Photo to show us all
Yes.
these photos. Yes.
Yes, very good tool. It's a very interesting tool and free.
Free and easy to share, right? So we can have other
Yes,
people join us and add their photos into Google Photos. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Chayla, so much.
yeah, of
Anybody
course.
questions for Chayla? Anybody else want to ask any questions or share any tech tools they've been using this year? Anybody have any tech plans for the summer? Anyone going to try and try out a new tool, set a challenge for themselves?
I could share one that's come to mind. I'm thinking before I was teaching for many years, then I was in marketing for like 6 years, and now I'm back in teaching. And I was thinking it would be helpful to have my students kind of get familiar with some of the tools that, like, for example, Canva, and some
Yes.
things that they might not use on their own, but which can be incredibly useful to create graphics and polls and things of that nature. So I'm just thinking about maybe trying to implement that this summer. And also, if they like to use their phone, this could be a productive use of the phone. And if I give them the responsibility that you have to produce a result, a tangible result that we can share and do a gallery walk or something. So anyway, I'm just kind of thinking of this idea because we do a lot of stuff in the classroom, but I realize there's a lot of tools that we might not use in a lesson, but that they could use for, real world job skills and that sort of thing that I didn't use as a teacher, but then I used outside in an office job.
I think that's a great thought, right? Like that we think about. So with adults, particularly, this is a discussion I have with my colleagues when we talk about the tools that we use in our own teaching. And one of my ideas is that I prefer, when I can, to use tools that I think students are going to use in their lives, right? So there's a lot of really amazing educational tools, and I would never tell you not to use them. But when I can, I love to choose tools like Canva. And this is part of my joy with Google as well, as a person who will make a spreadsheet for my family when we're going on vacation, and does use Google Photos for my own life, and does use Google Keep for my own life. So thinking about how these tools are useful in our own lives, and then thinking about how we're practicing those skills in class for an educational purpose. But again, you now know how to use it for when you're going to make I think Canva is an amazing one, right? Because it does allow you to create such polished, this is what I think slides and PowerPoint are wonderful tools, because you can make such polished results that I think for adult students makes, it's amazing. I can make this amazing thing that I can then share. We used to do a cookbook when I was teaching ESL. We would do a cookbook that was all kind of handwritten, and then maybe a year or two later, we were like typing up the recipes and finding images. And nowadays, I'd probably make like a blog or a website where all that stuff is just sitting there, and I could share that link with my relatives. And so thinking about how we can take the things that we might have done with paper and pencil, even when we were in school, I say even because that was a long time ago, that now, how do we do that in real life? And when these tools that we might want to use, we can use them outside beyond what. So I think bringing in your own experience like that, if you've had other jobs or you are trying to do things in your own life, that those are moments to notice what tools were particularly useful and how did you figure out what to do, and wouldn't that be a great thing for our students to know?
Yeah. And I'll just add real quick now, because you reminded me of one other Google tool. It's really easy because I've done one or two of these in the past, is Google Sites. So that
Yes.
was kind of a follow-up. I was thinking, for example, if we have them all, students are creating little graphics or little mini posters to promote something of their choice on Canva, but then having them collected. And again, I know there's many different ways to collect these, but Google Sites is pretty user-friendly. I'm not tech savvy by any means, or website designing, and that one you can create a pretty nice looking site. I'd have to look more into that, but I don't know sharing capacity and stuff like that. But anyway, that was just one thought.
Right. So we've done some stuff with Google Sites. Google Sites is fantastic. For the free version, you would use their URL, which is the only downside because you end up with a really long URL, but you could pay for a URL, or students could pay it. They're, $14 a year. And then, that was what I was saying earlier, like having a single location where your students know they can come back to that website to look for whatever the next homework is going to be, or the links that you wanted them to do. But like you're saying, then turning it around and that students can make their own websites. And that could be the result, that could be the end product of whatever their project is, but it's something that they can share beyond the classroom, which when we talk about using technology for learning and teaching, one idea that I like to kind of play with is this triple E framework, where the tech should not just be a substitute. So the famous story of the triple E framework is the woman who developed it was a K through 12 teacher who this is back, I don't know, 2009, I think. She was tasked with being the tech teacher for her school, and she was sent to a conference and she learned about PowerPoint, and she was like, oh my gosh, when I go back, I have to do this. I was going to do like a lecture on the French Revolution. I'm going to do a PowerPoint now. And it was amazing. And she did the PowerPoint, and her students were like, wow, this is amazing. And then 2 weeks later, the students are back to being kind of bored and not being that excited, because it really was just a substitution. It didn't lead to anything additional. It just was a little snazzier and a little different than her handwriting on the board or whatever. So the question is, can you do something with that tech that actually, and the triple E, and I'm never going to remember all three E's, but it's extending, enhancing, and I'll find them and I'll put them in our slides for today. But I often think that way, right? Can this idea with Padlet for me, where we were all together in a group, we wrote up all our ideas, that's fantastic, and now I leave the room. That's the paper version. Now I can have that in Padlet. Can we have an assignment now where students go back to what they wrote in their groups and takes that and does something more with them, and it extends it outside of the classroom? It enhances what they can do with the work. And it doesn't, not everything can be everything, but I think having that in the back of our minds, sometimes the first step is often going to be substitution. And then kind of as you get more familiar with the tools, maybe you begin to think of ways that the tool could be used more than in a way that takes you beyond just what the paper and pencil version would have been. So I think Google Sites is a really great example of that, both for teachers to have a space instead of like a filing cabinet in the room. Now you have this online space where students can come back. Google Classroom is another great example of that. But then thinking about, that the student themselves could create their own websites, even like just as a pretend business or something. And, what a fantastic way to tell a story of something that you are interested in. So I think that's a great idea. What I'm going to do in the slides, many of the things that are Google focused, we've definitely covered a little bit in previous sessions. So I'm going to link to those previous meetings. For Google Club, we do this recording, we post it on YouTube, and then we have a blog that also has all of the previous links to the videos, but also the materials for each one. And those you could sort, you can go in and just be like, find all the ones that are about Google Forms or find all the ones about Google Sites, and then you could go and see those. But you also can find amazing tutorials out in the world to try these things out. It doesn't have to be Google Club only, but we do have some resources there. So I'll make sure those are linked back into the slides from today. Any other thoughts that this is bringing up, like little bubbling ideas that come from these kinds of conversations? And one other question for you to think a little bit about. Those folks, not everyone was here at the very beginning, but there's a survey that I'm going to ask you to fill out to help us plan for next year. And one thought so this year we played a little bit. Last year there was some requests for in-person tech workshops, because I do think that in-person tech workshops tend to have a slightly different my experience has been that when I do workshops with people in the same room with me, they tend to play along a little bit more. And when you're coming to it on Zoom, it's a little hard to do that. So maybe you're just concentrating on what I'm talking about, and maybe there's an activity that you go do, but it's not quite as hands-on in some ways. So there was a request for these in-person ones, and then it turned out it's hard, right? We're now so used to being able to come to these remote meetings and workshops that it's like the additional struggle of the transportation time to get to and from somewhere on a certain day or whatever is all hard. So they weren't very well attended, which is totally fine. A few people came and they got what they needed, so that was fantastic. But that's a question. Would you like more in-person opportunities to even meet with each other? We've also been talking internally about, do we want to focus on something like AI, or like go broader than Google and just do sort of tech in general, but maybe again still have this once a month come together and sort of focus on it. When we first started Google Club, the goal was the reason it's club versus just a series of workshops or an academy or something like that was that this was an opportunity for you all to bring in the things that you were doing. And I think we've had some success with that, but this year I don't think I even really looked for that. And so most of it's been me talking. And that's fine, but to me that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to have folks coming together and being like, you guys, I tried this thing and it didn't work, and I tried it this way and that way, and what do you think? What can I do? And I think folks are still figuring this stuff out and maybe a little shy. So we're trying to think a little bit about subject matter, like topics to do next year. Again, looking back over the 4 years that Google Club's been around, we've done it slightly differently every year. I think last year we had a focus on the Google Educator Certificate. So each of our meetings had kind of a area of content that prepared you to take that certificate. This year we had as our focus digital resilience, which is the idea that one of the digital skills that we really need to work on for ourselves and for our students is what do you do when you hit a bump in the road, or things change, or the software that you're used to using had an update last night and now it's totally different. So it's kind of a social emotional piece, self-belief, having some techniques for situations where you're feeling like things aren't working the way you expected them to. We've looked at math for us has a very similar situation where there are a lot of folks who have, very strong feelings that they're not good at math, that they get very, there's a lot of emotional pieces to that. And I feel like tech can be like that too. So for some teachers, for some students, tech is just so, other people seem to get it. I don't get it. Every time I try, it breaks. Like anytime you're saying any of those things, like every time I feel like this about sewing machines. So every time I try to use a sewing machine, it breaks. That's my experience. If you ask me, I could tell you I can't. Anyway, the memory of failure becomes very strong. And so working on memories of success and of opportunities for trying things out and not feeling, learning not to judge it and not to kind of go into a spiral of all your previous failures. So again, that was kind of the theme. And so each of our meetings has had a different component of how can you use Google tools to help strengthen digital resilience. So as we look to next year, we are thinking about different ways we can continue to meet together, but possibly not focus on Google, or focus on Google, but with a specific kind of lens. It can just be that we try out all the tools again because their tools have all been redesigned in the meantime and have different functions to them. It was exciting today to talk about all these tools that we're kind of sort of familiar with, right? So we had Google Forms, we have Google Classroom, we have Google Sites, Google Photo, Google Docs. So they are tools that we are using, but should we just focus on those again and kind of just
I have an idea,
okay?
maybe more project based. So during the pandemic, and then I moved away from it after the pandemic, or was the part of Google that had all the student projects. Do you remember that?
I
They had
don't.
all these different student projects.
Is it the applied
Um,
digital skills?
yes.
Yeah.
And they
So
had all
good.
these, and it wasn't ESOL based. It was more like, 6 to 12 based or adult
Yeah,
ed based. I would love to take I don't know if it still exists because I haven't looked at it for a while.
it does still
I'm
exist,
wondering,
but they've
I'm
moved
wondering,
it. Yeah.
I'm wondering if we could maybe talk about project based education and using the technology. Now I failed really badly. I was teaching at KBCC, but not in the clip, in like one of those partnership programs. And I asked Gemini to put together a project where they had to create a company, and each week they had to do a little bit more, like do a spreadsheet, do some slides, do some research, create a logo. And I asked at the end how they felt about the project, and they said it was too different.
Yeah.
And it may have not been, I mean, they created beautiful slides and beautiful spreadsheets and beautiful logos. You have to see it. But I want to know, how was this connected with ESO? So you understand, but you mentioned it before when you were talking about the French history, the French literature one, again, where was the ESL component to this project, even though they either came in knowing all these tools and that's why they did beautiful presentations, or they learned it along the way. I don't know. So I want a connection between the actual learning and the using of the tools. Like you just mentioned that. So I'm wondering if we should talk maybe next cycle. I'm so sorry about the bus.
Oh, good. We can't actually hear the bus. It's all good.
Okay. So you understand what I'm saying,
So,
that maybe more project-based education.
and so focusing on using tech in project-based
Yeah,
project-based.
where the takeaway is not really knowing how to use all the tools, because I'm telling you, you should have seen these presentations these people built together. But my question is, how much ESL learning did you get out of this?
Okay, that's a helpful. I mean, I feel like that has been kind of how we focus on these, but it's been like it's coming to Google Sites for these purposes usually. But
Right.
again, thinking about it from a project base and maybe so Google has moved. If you've ever looked at their Google Applied Digital Skills, it was exactly as you're describing. It was a way of learning the tool in an applied way. So you don't just
Yeah,
go
in a
and learn.
project, right.
So you don't just learn how to do Google Sheets, but you learn how to make a budget for an event,
Right,
or
right,
you learn how to do Google Slides to make a if-then storybook or whatever. So
right,
I did find those really valuable. I found them high level and so often challenging for students, especially depending on the language level. But teachers
right.
sometimes found them very useful as a way to learn how to do things. We did a series again, I think it was last year or the year before, where we actually had some badging where between our sessions, we created like an activity that you could do. And then if you checked off all the boxes, you could get a badge. And very few people did it, which I also was like, okay, because it's hard, I think, in our lives to find time to do that. One thing that I've noticed, and this has come up sometimes in conversations with teachers and sometimes in my own experience, um, someone said, Nell, I'm so glad you're doing Google Slides because I've always wanted to try them. And I, uh, we've talked about Padlet today. I love Padlet, but I use like 5% of Padlet. Like I don't even know the rest of Padlet because it does the thing I want it to do, and I don't need to worry about anything else. And my colleague Cynthia uses like 90% of Padlet, and I'm like, what? Why have I not done that? Like, why am I not trying out other parts of Padlet? And it's like, because you can't just do it in a vacuum, right? Like I'm not, oh, it's Saturday at 3 o'clock. I'm just going to go in and check out Google Slides. It's more like you need to have this applied process. So we were talking about internally of like, would it be helpful just for all of us to have like this sort of giant list we could come back to, like a Google Doc or a Google site or something, where if you have time off and you're looking for something new to try, you can go there and there'll be an assignment that says, use Google Slides to create 5 recipe cards of great desserts or something like that. So some applied way to actually go in and try all the bells and whistles inside the tool, but with an actual kind of assignment. Because I know with Padlet that part of the reason I can't just go in and play around. I need to be like, no, your assignment, if you should choose to accept it, is that you will create XYZ, a timeline of space flight in Padlet, right? That would be such a fun, I think I'd like to do that. So we're thinking about that, making that kind of list of, I kind of feel like it's connected to this idea of project-based, or at least thinking about these tools in that applied sense. So it's not just, I was talking to someone today, they are doing a digital literacy class, but they're doing a lot of touch typing. But their whole point of that is that they introduce touch typing, but then they do touch typing in an applied way. And I do remember in junior high taking typing class on this end of the building, and my English class was on this end of the building. And it did not seem that those two teachers ever talked to each other. And I never typed anything for my English class. Like that would have been good, right? So it sounds like that's kind of what they're doing, that they're teaching. There's a real explicit instruction component to teaching and to playing with tools that get you to improve your typing, but then they are using it also to type up the resume or also to use all of these. They're specifically looking at Microsoft, but using Microsoft tools and increasing their typing speed. And it seems like it's super popular. And I think we all might think that that wouldn't be popular, but it is. People want to know how to type. Okay, we're down to our last 6 minutes. I'm going to give you all the link to our usual evaluation survey, and I'm going to, as we always do, I will send you an email either later today, probably tomorrow, with the links to, I'll be adding some stuff to the slides anyway, and then you'll have a link to the slides. The recording will go up on YouTube and on the blog, and this is the end of Google Club for this year, but you also can always reach out to me if you have questions or ideas. I feel like we talked a lot today, and that might have loosened up some ideas that you were too shy to share here, but you might have. So feel free to always reach out. So surveys in the evaluation surveys in the chat. It's always very valuable to us to get your input on that survey, both for the funder and for us. So please do fill that out. And yeah, we've got 5 minutes left. So go ahead and fill out the evaluation. And that's the end of today. Unless anyone else has any other questions or comments they want to share. All right, I'm going to stop our recording.